Hello, everyone. Welcome to this special webinar today on effects makeup. Specifically, I'm going to be creating a sort of sorceress look using some prosthetics and other things. Um, my name is Jordan Plath. I am a pro makeup artist for Krylon. I'm also head of the education. Right now we run webinars, usually a couple a month, and in the not too distant future, we're going to be having some live workshops as well in San Francisco. So if you're in the Bay Area, be sure to check back on the website and also Eventbrite where we post our classes for updates on that. I'm joined with Wilma. Wilma is my model today, but she also works with us in the store and is fantastic. And then also Yami, who has taught a number of webinars for us and is on the control panel today. So we're using a different platform than we normally do. Normally we use Zoom. We're trying our hand at YouTube. So hopefully everything's coming through clearly. There is a chat box. And if you could just give me a thumbs up, somebody, and make sure that that you can see me and hear me. And you can also use that chat box to communicate. I guess if you can't hear me, you're not really knowing what I'm saying, so you wouldn't be able to thumbs up. Anyway, we're going to get started because there's lots to do. And I have a lot to show you and a lot to explain. So before I begin with the makeup application, I'm going to show you what I'm going to be working with. These are pre-made prosthetic pieces. They're a little hard to see on camera. These are things that I made myself. This is a whole class unto itself to explain how these are made, but in a nutshell, they're sculpted with a special clay, and then a mold is made with a silicone mold material, and from that I cast the pieces out of silicone as well. The silicone that these are made out of we carry in the United States, and it is called Platsil Gel 10. Platsil Gel 10, I believe. And then I also made this supplementary eyeball. A little hard to see on camera, but hopefully as we go along and I apply it, you'll be able to see it. These are tinted with our silicone colorizer, and that is used for coloring silicone and tinting, even like our Artex, which is a 2-part silicone compound. It's a great product for coloring silicone. Just to show you the process a little bit, I still preserve the sculpture that I made of the eyeball, so you can see it a little bit better. And then from that, I made a mold. This is our silicone, forgetting, I think it's mold silicone. This is a silicone that is a little firmer, and from this, I cast the pieces with our Platsil Gel 10. Oh, I have some right here. And hopefully at a future date, we can get more into the actual process of creating these pieces. But this is kind of the focus of the webinar today. In addition, I'm going to be airbrushing. I'm going to be using our Nebula airbrush makeup, which is a silicone-based formula. And I'm going to be supplementing with other beauty products. So our sorceress, I was thinking, she's very spooky, she's very mysterious, and I was kind of inspired by like 80s fantasy movies, specifically the Neverending Story 2. There was this sorceress character in it that actually absolutely terrified me as a kid, and I thought it'd be kind of cool to bring in some 80s makeup elements to this look. Anyway, let's get started. So, as I mentioned, if you have any questions, just use the chat box. Yami will be monitoring. We also have Ann Newman, who's our national sales manager, that is also tuning in right now. That's going to be helping out with questions as well. So first things first, I'm going to clean the skin. And I'm just using a very light astringent, specifically witch hazel. We have a product, I just didn't have any up here, that is called HD Pro Gum Remover. And it is an adhesive remover for spirit gum type adhesives. And we love to use it because it has witch hazel and other nice botanical ingredients in it. We love to use it as a cleanser prior to doing special effects makeup. But in a pinch, you can get some witch hazel or another light astringent. And you want to do this just to clean the skin of any excess oil, any makeup, because when you're gluing prosthetics, you want to make sure that the adhesive forms a really nice bond and allows your pieces to stick. So one thing I didn't mention about these pieces, you'll notice this kind of plastic layer. The silicone is actually embedded between two layers of a product called Glatzon. This is a liquid vinyl product that we use to actually make our famous Glatzon ball caps. And the beauty of this product is that you can melt it with a little bit of cosmetic acetone. What that does is allows you to blend the edges perfectly into the skin. You can't really blend edges of silicone. So when you encapsulate it between two layers of a liquid plastic, then you can melt the edges and get a really nice transition. It also serves another purpose. It allows you to paint the prosthetic with any number of makeup products. If this were bare silicone, it wouldn't paint very easily because silicone has a tendency to repel anything that's put on top of it. So most makeup will not stick to silicone properly. Okay, so I've got the skin cleansed, and I'm going to now take my pieces. These are cheekbones that I made. This is the first time I'm trying them, so this is a little bit of an experiment to see how they work, but I think they're going to be nice. Okay, so I just kind of hold them up, see where they're going to lay before I go in and glue. And if you'll notice, there's this band of silicone running around the edge. That's so I have a nice blending edge and I have something to grasp the piece with so I can pull it tight. All right, I'm going to be using good old-fashioned Pros-Aid. Whoops, Pros-Aid. This is a medical grade adhesive. It's acrylic based, and it is one of the strongest skin safe adhesives that you can find. And it's great for gluing down prosthetics. It actually stands for prosthetic aid. So that's why it's named Pros-Aid.
Quick question from a
Yes.
viewer. What do you use for the layers? What is it called again?
It's called Glatzon. I know it's a little overexposed, let's say. Maybe you can see it there. So Glatzon, it should be available on our website. And, you know, it's definitely a professional product. It's not something that you put on the skin directly. You want to work in a well-ventilated area because it's very fumey, and wear gloves and proper protective material. Okay, so I'm going to pour out some of my Pros-Aid into a little medicine cup. I'm going to take some cotton swabs to apply my adhesive. And I'll show you what I'm doing in just a second. So taking the back of the piece, I'm going to apply a layer of adhesive. Now, Pros-Aid is a contact adhesive, which means it works best when some is applied directly to the skin and some is applied to the surface that you're going to be adhering to the skin. And when pressed together, it forms a tight bond. But you don't need to saturate the piece and the skin with the Prozaid because an excess of glue is not going to give it a better hold. It just makes it a little more difficult to remove. So just a nice thin layer, and roughly where the piece is going to go, I'm going to apply a very thin layer. Well, would you mind turning your head just a little bit? Oops, other way. Yes, just so they can see here. Okay, get a little bit more on there. I just want to make sure it goes to out the surrounding edges so that I can lay the glotson part down nice and flat. And then you want to let it dry. So allow a little bit of time for the adhesive to dry, and you'll know it's dry because it will turn completely clear. You'll lose all those little white bits. And it's pretty important to allow the glue to dry completely because if you have any wet patches, that's never going to stick down properly because there will be no way for air to get underneath and dry it. So you'll have bits that won't stick down because the adhesive is only tacky in its dry state. While it's wet, it's not going to hold. All right, just about there. You can always speed the process with a little fan or hair dryer that's set on a cool setting. And when I'm ready, I'm gonna just, trying to find the exact place to place the piece down. I'm trying to follow the natural contour of Wilma's cheekbone. And I'm gonna press the piece in. And at this point, I'm going to just add a little bit more glue because I didn't quite get enough up here. Just to make sure that all my edges are going to lay down properly. I'll let that dry. Get a little bit under here. Okay. I'm just going to let that dry a little bit. When you're using a fan or a hair dryer, be sure it's on a very low setting, a cool and low setting, because if it's too forceful, then sometimes this all flaps around and it will stick down in an area that you don't want it to stick down. So now I'm going to cross over while that is drying and do the other side. Wilma, would you mind holding this for me? Just having Wilma hold the adhesive just so it's a little easier for me. I'm going to apply, again, a layer of adhesive to the back. Let's use that as well. Okay, coating the whole back with a nice thin layer, not too thick. You don't want it dripping. And then I'm going to apply adhesive to the cheek. Again, a nice, thin, even layer. I'm going to let that dry. I'm going to go back over here and see how we're doing. Let's see. Grab a clean cotton swab and just kind of sop up. There's a little bit of wet bits right there. Okay. So making sure, you want some tension when you're laying down the edges, but you don't want to stretch too much, because if you stretch too much, it creates kind of an accordion effect where you get rippling. Okay. Oops. I'm gonna just pull gently. Does that feel okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. There's a little wet bit inside there. Always be careful. Sometimes I have to peel back the edge ever so slightly to make a little placement correction, but you never want to rip the piece off. The wonderful thing about Pros-Aid is that it's a very forgiving adhesive in the sense that you can temporarily deactivate it by brushing a little bit of isopropyl alcohol into it. And what that does is it doesn't remove the adhesive, but it temporarily deactivates it. And you don't need to apply more. All you have to do is let the alcohol dry, evaporate, and the adhesive becomes tacky again. And that allows you to reposition your piece and tack it back down without having to add any additional adhesive. Okay, I think that's looking pretty good. Just let that hang out for a second. Excuse me. Okay, now I'm gonna go and hopefully it won't block. Turn a little more towards me, yes. A little less, there we go. So I'm going for evenness, of course. I don't want there to be lopsided cheekbones. And it can be a little tricky when you're eyeballing it. There's a great little trick you can do. It's a little hard to do on a piece like this just because it's so large on the face, but you can take a prosthetic piece and kind of mark out where you want to place it with a little bit of setting powder. You just hold it up, find the exact position, and then take a little setting powder with a puff or sponge and go around the edge, and it creates a nice little, almost like a little stamp mark, so you know exactly where to place it. I'm just going to eyeball it because I'm feeling a little bold today. These pieces were sculpted on a flat form, so they're not sculpted on a life cast. And the advantage of that is it's very easy to create prosthetic pieces, but the limitations is you can't do like a full face, and also you can't do pieces that are too thick because they won't follow the natural contours of the face and it creates too much tension. So for instance, if I made cheekbones and I really wanted them to stick out far, I would need to sculpt them on a life cast form so that it would lay perfectly flat over the contour of the face. But working on a flat plane, making a flat mold is much easier and much faster. Okay, I do think this is a good opportunity to show you that I can use a little alcohol to lift, because I do think I placed this one a little bit high. So I'm going to take flat brush. This is just one of our Toray, like acrylic artist brushes. And I'm going to pour out a little bit of isopropyl alcohol. Just a little bit, because you're just using the tiniest amount to, and let me know if this is uncomfortable. Close your eye. Especially when working around the eye, you want to make sure that you don't get any fumes irritating the eye. And certainly you don't want to brush alcohol directly over the eye, hopefully for obvious reasons. So I'm just gently deactivating the adhesive to separate the piece from the skin. Still feel okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I thought I got that perfect, and then I looked at it again, and well, lo and behold. Very, very gently. Never ripping. You know, sometimes you do these prosthetic applications for clients, you know, if it's like for Halloween, they'll say, oh, yeah, I'll just rip it off at the end of the night. And you never want to allow them to do that because it can damage the skin. So always make sure you can't be there to take off the prosthetics, that you have them set up with the proper removers. And the remover that we carry for Prosaid is called Special Adhesive B Remover, and that works wonderfully. Okay. Trying to find my sight lines here. This is a moment of concentration. I think that's better. Okay, I'm just gonna let that chill there for a minute. And now I'm gonna take my cosmetic grade acetone. Maybe a little overexposed, but this is cosmetic grade acetone. This is acetone that is safer to use on the skin. With that said, this is not something you want to, you know, wash your face with by any means. You want to use just the smallest amount. If you are working out of a little cup, because that's best just so you don't introduce foreign particulates into the fluid. This is true of like adhesives and other, you know, solvents like acetone. You want to pour it out into a cup, but make sure you get a cup that won't melt with acetone, because acetone will melt certain types of plastic. This is a medical medicine cup. They're called CC cups. And the material that it's made of, it's a little bit more of a firm plastic, does not melt with acetone. Okay, keep your eyes closed for this and turn your head so they can see. So now I'm going to go around the edge and slowly, actually, Wilma, would you mind just holding that? Thank you. I'm going to go around the edge, not the outer edge. The reason why there's so much material, it gives you a lot of working space in case you need to, you know, glue a little farther back. And I'm going to slowly dissolve by rolling the Q-tip away from the piece. So I'm rolling outward and gently pulling back. But you want to take your time with this because you want the Glotson material to slowly break apart. Does that feel okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. The acetone has a little bit of a cooling sensation on the skin because it evaporates very quickly, so it feels a little icy.
Mm-hmm.
I love this part. It's so satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
So notice I'm not scrubbing back and forth. I'm twisting the cotton swab. And then I'll usually break apart this flashing bit here just to make it a little easier. And the nice thing too, you notice that I don't have adhesive here, but if I find that I need to lay a little bit more material down just by brushing or swabbing, I guess, the Glotson over the skin, it kind of acts as a little bit of an adhesive, if that makes sense. So it dissolves, but I can also just take a little bit and kind of just push it down onto the skin if I just need a little bit more of the Glotson material. So our Glotson ball caps also melt like this, which is why they're so great to work with, because you get a nice transition into the skin. Unlike the latex ball caps, which, although they're very thin, you do need to use some material or product to blend the edges. Usually liquid latex, or you could use latex-based eyelash adhesive works really nicely. Also, Prozaid works well. Specifically, a thickened form, either Prozaid cream or there is also the industry unofficial names are Bondo, which I know is actually for filling dents in car exteriors, but the nickname is Bondo, or also Cabo Patch, which stands for Cabosil, which is a fumed silica thickening material mixed with Prozaid, and it creates a nice thickened paste. Okay, so I'm being very, very careful because I'm very close to the eye. So you never want to saturate, well, any part of this, but certainly not close to the eye. Really, really take some time, use just a tiny bit of acetone, and I'm twisting and blending outward. Oh, come on, just a little string there. Okay. So even though you should get a really nice edge, sometimes you'll find that you have, like, a little bit of a rough edge, and I can go back in and patch that up with, Prozaid. I wouldn't use latex on this because it's just not the ideal blending material. But I could use a little bit of Prozaid cream, or even a little bit of just liquid Prozaid in a pinch, and just kind of stipple over the edge a couple layers. Does that feel okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I did happen to make this encapsulation layer of Glotson a little on the thick side. So hopefully it will blend nicely. We'll find out in just a second. Just making my way around. Almost there. Does anyone have any questions out there thus far?
Yeah, any questions? Feel free to put them in the chat and I will relay them. Somebody just made a comment and said they would like to take a course on how to do this.
Yes. And we would love to teach a course, and hopefully we'll be able to do that in the not too distant future. Okay. Almost there, almost there. Of course, we have to do the other side, but all right, this last little bit here. It just wants to hang on. Okay. Kind of rushed that last bit, so let's see. I'm just gonna take a little bit of acetone and just kind of go over my edges here.
Anne says looks great.
Oh, thanks, Anne. Okay, I'm gonna go around your eye just a little bit, okay? There we go. So, even the best silicone prosthetics, you know, up close, you're always gonna see a little noticeable difference between the silicone and the skin. And that's because they're made of entirely different things. And when you're sculpting your piece, you definitely want to include some texture and other things to help it blend. But these little pieces, as easily as easy as they can get blended into the skin, there's always going to be a trace noticeable difference in person. And also with the high definition cameras, you know, there's, especially big budget films, there's a lot of post production touch up that is done to help blend pieces into the skin. And of course, the bigger the piece, if you have something that covers the whole face or overlaps multiple pieces, that's not going to be as obvious because there's less visible skin. Okay, got a couple little bumpy edges. How's your arm? Is it okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's go around. Let's see. Make sure all this is down. I think that looks pretty good. I might just add just a tiny dab of adhesive here. Okay, let that dry, and while that's drying, let's see, maybe, whoops, a little bit on the edge. So when you're gluing, you get close to the hairline, you can take a little bit of glue into the hair, but I would avoid, you know, saturating the hair with this adhesive because it's very, very sticky stuff and can be a little challenging to remove from hair. And plus, when you glue into hair, it never looks all that great because you get texture. But sometimes with the generic pieces, they don't fit everyone's face perfectly. We all have different shaped faces and different size heads and faces. So I've experienced in the past with generic pieces, especially bigger ones that cover the full face, that they sometimes go into the hair. If I really wanted, if I was customizing this piece for Wilma and wanted to do the flat mold technique, which is again is sculpting on a flat plane and making a mold, that the advantage is that you could just kind of squeegee the silicone compound into the mold, and it's much easier than using a life cast and a mold on top of the life cast. And then you need to put your silicone material in there and squish it together, and it's a little bit more complex of a process. But if I wanted to customize this flat piece to Wilma, I would make a template ahead of time, so I make sure I get the proportions down perfectly. I use like a piece of plastic wrap to do that and make marks with a permanent marker. And then I can transfer that to a piece of acrylic, uh, like brand name plexiglass. I actually don't know if that's acrylic, but like a clear, hard plastic sheet is best to sculpt these pieces on. Okay, got my first little bit. I know this part is this is the most time consuming portion of the makeup. It can be a little bit like watching water boil.
Ooh.
So I noticed, and I noticed on the other side, there's a little, I don't know if it's visible on camera, there's a little bit of that accordion effect. It's almost like a wrinkling effect, like stretch and stipple, that happens if you pull too tight. Um, and I'm gonna just try to blend those down and, disguise it with a little bit of makeup. Makeup wise, I thought it might be nice, as I mentioned, to do something kind of 80s evil sorceress inspired. I'm also thinking, like Ghostbusters when Sigourney Weaver is possessed and she suddenly appears and she has all that like crazy 80s eyeshadow.
Ooh, cool.
These are the things that, made an impression on me as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh, another one.
Mm-hmm.
If we're speaking of movies, Return to Oz, which if you haven't seen that movie, it's nightmare fuel. It's the unofficial sequel to The Wizard of Oz. Yes. And it's terrifying and very true to the books apparently, but there's an evil witch in it. Uh, Mumby, Queen Mumby. I forget, but anyway, she has the power to change her heads, and she has a room full of heads. And anyway, she had very smoky '80s eyeshadow as well when she put on her mean head. And that, of course, terrified me, but also delighted me as a kid. Okay, making my way up. Just bear with me. I don't know what that's about. So this is just because of time limits, this was my first casting of this piece. And as I mentioned, I haven't actually applied these yet. So usually I like to have a test run to see how they do. And there is a little imperfection in this piece that I didn't notice before. I don't know what that's from. Almost feels like an air bubble, but I don't know. But anyway, something to note for the next time I cast the piece. But I'm going to just try to disguise that with some contouring. All right. So feel okay, Wilma?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Such a trooper. It's a lot to have this kind of makeup put on you. It's, having things glued to your face can be a little overwhelming for some people. So you try to make it as peaceful a experience as possible. And as I mentioned, always make sure if you can't remove the makeup yourself that you give very clear instructions and provide, your client, what have you, with the proper removal products. And, you know, in addition to the adhesive remover, you'd also want to make sure that they have, you know, a nice moisturizer to replenish the skin.
Mhm.
Come back to the whole area there. It's so strange. I don't know if it's visible on camera, but I have a little puffy part right here, and I don't know what that's from. I didn't see that in the piece, so I'm not sure. Now, if this is for a film project or, you know, something like that, ideally you'd want to do a test run of the makeup. And that's pretty important. Almost like a dress rehearsal for your makeup, because that allows you to work out all the kinks and really, you know, take some good notes and make changes as needed. This is taking a little bit longer to dissolve simply because I made the glotton a little bit on the thicker side. My other piece, my eyeball, my third eyeball has a very thin layer of glotton, so that's going to dissolve a lot easier. I just sponged the glotton, liquid glotton, into the mold, but you can also airbrush, which gives you a lighter touch. Okay, I'm going to be coming close to the eye, okay? Okay?
Yes.
Okay. It's almost like performing surgery.
Mhm.
Some people ask if, you know, prosthetic pieces like this can be used multiple times, and unfortunately, no, because as you can see, I'm, you know, literally taking off a rather important portion of the whole piece, which again is designed to give you a grip on something and so that you can lay the edges down nice and flat. I'll just pull that off to make it a little more comfortable and also less cumbersome for me. All right, coming around the home stretch here, it's just getting this last bit. Come on. It's a little stubborn guy. I'm not sure why this is not melting very easily, but if trying to be extra cautious around the eye. Have to give it a little bit more pressure, which is not ideal, or tension while I pull just to help rip it. I don't know why it's not dissolving. Sometimes there's a little excess of silicone in this layer. That silicone does not dissolve, it just kind of breaks apart. So So what I'm gonna have to do, just for the sake of time, I'm just gonna rip this. I don't know why this is giving me a little bit of trouble. I think it's because there's a little silicone buildup right here. So just gonna dab that down. There's a little edge right here. I'll blend it as best as I can, and we'll cover it with some makeup techniques to just kind of blend that out and disguise it, camouflage it.
Not sure if you saw this, but somebody said, did you use deadener in the silicone or just the
Oh
plastic?
yes, I did use deadener. So again, I kind of gave you the nutshell breakdown of the process, but yes, I use deadener as a softener for the silicone. Thank you, Wilma. And that is kind of important because you want the silicone to be really, really soft and flesh-like. And the deadener will give you that softness. Because if it's too firm, then it's not going to move with the skin properly. Okay, for this one, I'm just going to do a little stamp. I'm just transferring some wet adhesive right to the skin from the piece just to hurry the process along. And then blend it. And then once this is down and blended, we'll hop right into the makeup application. Coloring.
Wow, the cheekbones look really good on Wilma. They look so sharp.
They do. Yeah, this piece I didn't realize is a little it's a kind of a little bit of a bogus piece. I don't know what happened there.
Oh,
but,
don't say that.
You know, no, I'm just saying that had I a little bit more time, I would have run multiple pieces because sometimes you get bad runs.
No, it looks very good. Wow, it's like all those people get buccal fat removal, and this is like it gives this cheek lift.
There you
It's
go.
really-
You just do this on a daily basis.
Yeah, just do this every
need
day.
to. Yeah.
Yeah,
Get your buccal fat removal.
it looks great.
Okay. So adhesive is dry. Here goes the third eye. Just plant that right on, giving it a little tension, and then pressing, and then jumping right into my and this should melt easier. Because as you can see, I made a really thin layer, so thin that it's kind of breaking away from the flashing here. Okay. Being careful around the eyes. So pieces like this you can pre-paint, although they're so small that oftentimes, whoops, that's glue. oftentimes pre-painting just kind of hinders you. But if this were a large piece and I had the ability to match it to the person's skin, I could do a little extra pre-painting just to make the overall process a little less time consuming. Usually these smaller pieces, it's not worth the trouble. Melt, melt, melt. So my piece is overlapping the eyebrows just a little bit. So I'm going to get a little bit of a rough edge, but that's okay because I'm going to be filling in the brows and it's going to cover those rough bits there. Almost there. It's off for you. Okay. Just slide. I've got a little weird area right here. Okay. All right, so those are my pieces. I think I will, just because I had that difficult edge on the one side. It off, you usually don't have to do patchwork with these nice silicone pieces, but this one was a little defective. So I'm just gonna go in. This is Rose Cream. I'm just going in with just a little bit, just like spackle, just to kind of fill that edge. Let's see. You want to avoid using too much because that can also lead to weird, rough texture. Okay. All right, let me do a little cleanup of my station.
Wow.
And, there's definitely a shine from the Glotzon, but that should hopefully be neutralized with the paint that we're going to put on. And by paint, I mean Nebula airbrush makeup. Okay. Just trying to get these last little bits of Glotzon boogers off. So I have to the side of me, I'll show you in a second, my airbrush gun, compressor, and I have a pre-selected foundation color for Wilma. Some little stubborn little goobers right there. Not you, of course. Okay, so I have over here, I'll try to hold it up. If we can switch to the wider view. If you can see, this is our Nebula airbrush gun. This is our TC501C model air compressor. And airbrushing and all the technical aspects of it we've done in other webinars, so I'm not going to get too much into that. But airbrushing is a great choice for painting prosthetics simply because it offers you, a kind of a touchless application. So you're not overworking makeup into the skin and the prosthetic, which can sometimes give you a lot of grief. Because when you're sponging or brushing the makeup on, it can kind of collect on edges. And I'm trying to use just a minimal amount of foundation just to kind of blend it all together. Just going along this edge here with a little bit of that prosaic cream. Okay. So I have here my pre-selected shade of Nebula. This is Larch. This is a silicone-based airbrush makeup. It's great for special effects. It's great for beauty, character work, for stage, for film. It's fantastic airbrush formula. I'm going to be covering the whole, face, a light layer of the face and the neck just to blend everything together. So, I want a good amount of airbrush makeup in my little airbrush cup here, but I'm not filling it to the brim. And this compressor, you can adjust the pressure setting. I'm going to set it to about, let's see, 15 PSI, which is a nice, comfortable setting for airbrushing the skin on the face specifically. Get that little bit down. All right. I also have a air purifier in here. When airbrushing, it's always best to work in an area that has some airflow, and you want to be giving lots of breaks so that you and your model have time to breathe. Okay, ready?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going in very lightly at first, not oversaturating the skin. Turn just a little bit the other way. And it's just to blend it all together. This is just air here. I like to just do air over the face, just kind of blow any fumes away. But the goal is to not see big billowing clouds of airbrush makeup, because that means you're using too much too quickly. If I were covering a large area and I want to do it quickly, that's a different story. But I'm just trying to really lightly build up the color and coverage. Okay, turn towards me just a bit. And over the eyes. And around the nose. It's just air. The finish of Nebula is kind of a nice, natural satin finish, like human skin has. So it's taking down a lot of the shine, but not making it so matte that it looks flat. Air.
I don't know if you said this already.
Air?
What the base of Nebula is?
Silicone. Technically, it's a silicone water emulsion, but for all intents and purposes, this is a silicone-based airbrush makeup. Air. Okay, breathing, and here we go. So while I'm trying to blend the pieces better into the skin, I'm also going to be going in with detail colors and shading colors, so I don't need to pack it on. I'm just trying to counterbalance some of the difference between the silicone color and the skin. And you know, if possible, it's best to tint the silicone as close to the talent or model's skin tone. And that saves you a lot of grief when having to go in and blend it. Still feeling okay?
Mhm.
All right, this is just air. A little bit more up here, getting around that eyeball. Getting a little more on the eyes, kind of prime them out. Air. And then I'm going to go around the nose area a little bit, okay? 1, 2, 3. Okay, I think this is going to be good for now. Okay. So now, oops, I'm going to use some contouring. So airbrush, I could go in and do eyeshadow and, you know, all sorts of things with it. You can stencil the eyebrows on, but I think a combination of, I'm going to do some hand brushed eyeshadow, but I will go in with the airbrush to contour. I think, you know, making use of an airbrush for contouring, highlighting, and putting base on is fantastic. The eyeshadow, I think it's going to give too much of an airbrushed, quote unquote, look. So I'm going to, you know, use traditional eyeshadow type product to fill in other details of the makeup. There's just a little bit right here that's flapping up a little bit. So just brushing a little bit of adhesive on top. And I'll probably go in and just so it's not shiny, because the Prostate adhesive, when it dries, is very, very glossy. So I'm going to just airbrush over that real quick once it dries. Now for contouring, again, because I'm doing my 80s inspired makeup, the contour was very heavy, generally speaking, in the 80s, and oftentimes more on the red side. Like the blush would just be used as contour. So it would be like a deeper kind of more red-based contour than the cooler contours we use today, and very much focused on the center of the cheekbone and into the contour, as opposed to today when we use, you know, lighter peachier or cooler colors kind of over the top and middle part of the cheeks. And then a smoky eye, and we're going to fill the brows out a little bit. Maybe I'll add some veining in too, just for fun. Because although she's beautiful and mysterious, she's, you know, she has been corrupted by evil magic, and so the corruption is spreading throughout her body. That's my story. Okay, so now I'm going to use Nebula Maroon Contour, and I have just some remnants of the foundation color in the cup, and that's fine because having that little bit of foundation in there allows me to kind of customize the contour a little bit more, so it's not quite as sharp. I'm just bubbling, putting a little back pressure on the airbrush gun so it mixes the two colors together. And I'm going to run it through until I get my contour. All right. So I'm starting at the actual contour of the prosthetic piece. I'm going to use that as my guide to slowly add my sharp contour color. And it just adds some dimension and gives you that sharp 80s contour blush look. I think I'll go in also with a red color just to kind of make it a little bit more warm. But let's see. I'll just do a little contour around the jawline too to try to match the shading colors. Okay, turn. Okay, doing the same thing on the second side. You know, an advantage of airbrush makeup is it can be fast. You can add, you know, your contour, your foundation relatively quickly and seamlessly because no blending is required. You're doing the blending in the actual application. Tilt your head back just a bit. Like throw your head back just a little bit, like yes, I can get underneath here. Okay, relax. Let's see, turn that way and then the other way. Okay, I went heavier on this side, so I'm gonna balance it out a little bit.
Wow, that really made her cheeks pop.
I'll say. It sure did. Turn that way for me. Thank you. Okay, and then I'm gonna add a little bit of contouring. Let's see. We'll do down the nose just a little bit. Tilt your head down and go out just a little bit there, yes. You know, it's not needed for this look, but I like to add, you know, shading colors, the same shading color to various contours of the face, just to kind of help make it all blend together well. Do a little bit in the temple, why not? And I'm gonna go in very carefully. Let me turn down the pressure and just kind of contour around my eyeball. And just add a little bit of contour around the hairline. Help it blend together. All right, let's see, I'll do a little bit here. A little bit, I'm gonna go around your nose a little bit, okay? Okay. Okay, switching gears. I think I'm going to just add a little bit of a peach into the contour. So I'm using peach blusher. Just to warm it up, just on the cheeks a little bit higher. Okay. Because the cheeks are looking a little sallow compared to the skin. So I'm offsetting that just a little bit. Okay. And the cheeks, meaning the prosthetic pieces compared to the surrounding skin, are looking a little sallow. So I'm just using a little peach blusher just to warm them up a little bit. And then I'll do some of this around my eyeball to help blend it in. Okay. Switching gears again. I'm going to put my airbrush gun down for a minute. And we're going to rapid fire through the rest of the makeup because time is getting short. I'm going to fill in the brows. Originally, I wanted to airbrush them, and then I thought, wow, that's not very 80s. They didn't airbrush their eyebrows. They had kind of full, fluffy brows.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to hand brush them in. I'm using our Velvet Vision new eyeshadow formula, which is just out of this world. This is Velvet 2. There's 2 palettes available now. Also, the colors are sold individually with more colors on the way. Whoops, that's not what I want. Sorry, I want Velvet 1 is the other one because I want this kind of dark, cool brown here.
Mm-hmm.
And fortunately, Wilma has like fantastically shaped brows, so I really don't have to do any corrective work. I'm just kind of filling them in and filling them out. You know, I want that severe, scary, sorceress 80s arch. I'm just going to arch them a little bit more and extend them a little bit more. Okay. But if you did want to airbrush your eyebrows, we have a great eyebrow stencil set that should be available online. You know, designed with the makeup artist in mind. There's, I think, 8 styles to choose from. And sometimes I'll use them as a guide because if you airbrush eyebrows on, it has a very sharp appearance. So I'll use it as a starting point, especially if people have eyebrows that maybe need a little bit corrective work in terms of the shape. And then I'll kind of soften the edges and fill in with just a makeup brush and some powder. Okay, moving along. Let's do some smoky eyeballs. Let's see. Let's start with. Ooh. So in the 80s, the eyeshadow was oftentimes swept, more often than not, I should say, swept up to the brow completely. And that's what I'm going to do. Let's see. I'll start with this kind of cool, it's almost like a terracotta color. Oh, it's not labeled. And this is the Velvet 1 palette. The nice thing about these shadows is they're just really creamy and they're so saturated in color. Just gonna tap that on. Now, because I have the airbrush base on, it acts like a primer, which is nice because it really picks up the color. And these just blend so easily. It's really, they almost feel like creams. They're so soft. Okay.
That looks beautiful.
It's getting there. Just gonna switch to a clean brush to kind of buff out here. I don't know, I kind of love how in the 80s they took the eyeshadow all the way to the top.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, now I'm gonna start to smoke it out a little more. Let's see, I'll use just a little bit of this deeper, this is the same palette, deeper but warmer red color. Just add a little bit more color and intensity.
Pretty.
It's pretty. God, these apply just so effortlessly. And there's like no fallout either, which is wonderful. Okay, blend that out. Does it feel okay? Not rubbing too hard.
No.
Okay, now we'll transition into that brown, that deep brown that I use for the brows. Kind of getting it on the lash line and sweeping it into the lid and maybe just a little bit in the crease. Okay, let me blend. Also in the 80s, there was virtually no eyeliner, or rather, the eyeliner was very soft, oftentimes just a soft pencil or powder. We didn't have the hard, sharp liner of yesteryear and also today. Okay, now I'm gonna transition closer to the lid with some black from the Velvet 2 palette. In fact, look up. I'm gonna brush this underneath first. Wilma very kindly tight lined her bottom liner prior to this, which just adds to the mystery of the character, making those eyes look really deep.
Ooh, I love this. That black really
Yeah, the black
punched
is
it up.
also just such a great saturated black. Just go back in. Okay. Okay, close. I'm going to get this onto the top lid. And I'm using this in place of eyeliner. Okay, and then one more time, would you open and look up? I just need to marry the tight line a little bit. Okay, close. Blend that out. Sorry. Right. And open. Let's see. Close one more time. I'm just going to add a little bit more of a deep color into the crease. Blend.
Cool.
Now we're doing on time. I know we're getting close.
11:54.
Okay. All right, now throw on some lips. I'm going to use our fabulous gel lip liner. This is, let's see, this is Warm Mulberry. Kind of keeping everything very like monochromatic.
I like this eye.
Yeah, I love a good smoked out mysterious eyeball. These lip liners, gel lip liners, are just fabulous. They go on so easily. They're so creamy, and they stay so well. They're self-setting, and once they're on there, you give them about a minute or so to dry, they do not budge. You can also use it to fill in the lip if you want to use it as just a lip color, a long-lasting matte lip color. Let's see. Just overdrawing just a little bit. I'm going to go in with a lip stain. I'm using our lip stain. This is Gospel. And the noise you hear is me decanting the product so I can apply it with a brush. And this, you know, it's like a liquid lipstick, like lip paint. And this also sets and is great for long wear. Thank you. I'm just gonna add, let's see, a little bit more red into it. Okay, now we're not done yet. There's other things I wanted to do. For instance, thought a nice black eyeball would be cool. So I'm going to use our effects design color, this alcohol activated paints. Come in 3 pre-assembled kits, or you can also make your own. These are all magnetic. You can purchase the colors individually and assemble your own palette. We also have liquids. And I'm just going to activate the black. And I'm going to use an angled brush just because it has a nice sharp edge.
Beautiful palette.
I love this palette. So great for effect stuff like this. I'm going to go in with a couple layers. I'll just get that first layer on and let it dry. And I can clean up the edges. I'm kind of hastily putting it into the piece with a little bit of alcohol.
Whoa.
And let's
Whoa.
see, I want to also, I saw one thing I wanted to fix.
I want mine.
Up, you want a third eye? We
Yeah.
can arrange that. Third eyes for everybody.
I'll take 10.
Whoops. Wilma has been so fantastic sitting through this, sitting through any makeup this long can be a little challenging. And then you have stuff glued on your face and, Okay, so one thing I wanted to do, just because I thought it would add an interesting element, is I wanted to maybe do some airbrushed veins. And I think I'm just going to go for, like a near black color. I'm using true black in the nebula and pouring it into, I still have some remnants of my contour color, blush color in there.
Anne says, I hope she's going out tonight.
Oh, hopefully.
Ooh, wicked.
So for this, I want to get in real close, turn the pressure down low, and start to do some little veins. Turn so they can see that way, yes. Now running down the neck and coming up in the skin. I'm sorry, the face. Let's see, we'll do a little coming down here. Turn towards me. Ooh, very spooky. Just doing a little shading around the eye. All right, let's turn this way and we'll go So I like to do my veins, not like tree branches, you know, where you're splitting them off in various directions. Because technically veins, as far as I know, they're one, each vein is one continuous vein as opposed to splitting off into multiple directions. Don't quote me on that, but from what I understand,
How are you getting that really cool squiggly shape?
so a lot of coffee,
Oh, got it.
and you just want to have a loose hand. So avoiding going in too heavy. Sorry about that. You don't want to go in too linear. You know, having like a quivering hand is very helpful. And kind of overlapping them. Some little parts will be a little bit darker, some will be a little bit lighter, you know, so they're not completely uniform. Let's see, turn.
Wow. Cool. The black looks good.
All right. You know, to complete the look, you could throw on some lashes. Just fill in a little area of the eye just to touch it up a little bit. And then a little bit of mottling around the edge. Always adds a nice little touch around the hairline. Soften the brows a little bit with the airbrush. Turn towards me. So by modeling, I mean doing little dots, little irregularities. Let's see. You're looking pretty sinister, if I do say so myself. Then you can go in and kind of touch up some of the veins if you want to add a little bit more intensity. But yeah, just with the veins, best piece of advice is, you know, go long. Don't do little short little lightning bursts or little tree branches. You want to go long, and you want to use a very shaky, quivery hand, which is easy for me to do. Going straight is more challenging for me in more ways than one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just add a little bit more here. And I think we're about at time, right?
Yeah, 12:06.
12:06, oh my gosh. Time goes by so quickly. You just completely lose track. You know, pair this with a big, oversized. I'm gonna go over your lips just a little bit, since we're over time. Might as well just
Get crazy.
I just feel like they need a little bit more depth. They're a little too cheery. There you go. But I was gonna say, pair this with a big 80s hairstyle, you know, lots of teasing and giant, big hair. Okay. Now before I overdo it, I'm gonna call it quits, I think. That was a lot of information.
Mm-hmm.
But hopefully it was informative, and hopefully it was interesting and fun to watch. And this is my completed look. Yeah, it was fun.
You don't think
I-
she should shake her hair out?
Well,
or
maybe you should
something?
shake your hair. Let's do it.
Just to give the full fantasy.
Yeah, why not? Big,
Ooh.
voluminous 80s hair. Because, you know, for a character, the hair and wardrobe make all the difference. I want to see like some severe shoulder pads. Yes. Oh my goodness.
Somebody said, is it possible to watch this again at a later
Yes,
time?
it's going to be up on our YouTube page, and you can go there and watch it at your leisure. It's going to be up there permanently. So all you have to do is go to @Krylon Pro USA on YouTube. That's our YouTube channel, and you can see the full video there and review it in your own time. But anyway, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Yami, and thank you, Wilma, so much for being such a eager and willing model. And we'll see you next time. I think next week or the week after.
Sorry, my
No,
bad.
that's all right. Is we're gonna have like a product showcase that Yami's gonna do some of our newer products to create like a nice look. And we'll see you then. Thank you so much. Bye bye.